in. Welcome to Cordkillers Reckoning. We killed all the cords, and now we're reckoning with what we're going to do about that and try to watch what we want, when we want, where we want. I'm Tom Merritt. Where's the good stuff, Brian?
Yeah, and to be clear, we're not reckoning with the guilt of having committed mass murder of all the cords. We're reckoning with the hunger deep inside our belly to watch all of the good stuff. Because here's the one thing, I'll give this to old cable. Yeah, they had onerous agreements that were difficult to extract yourself from, and ridiculous infrastructure, and they destroyed net neutrality. But you know what they had? All the good stuff. Because they had literally everything. And now we're just trying to get back to cable.
Yeah. And they still do. Have you noticed? Like, that is the new thing. Is I've seen all these Spectrum ads recently because we were watching live sports, which is when I tend to see an ad. And they're like, do you want Netflix, Peacock, and Disney Plus all in one bill? They're included with your Spectrum subscription, plus all the great cable channels you're used to. It's like kind of a compelling pitch from those guys these days.
Well, and especially because, and this is where we have to remind people, this is why we went to war. We went to war not because we didn't like the all-you-can-eat buffet. We went to war because we were locked inside of it, and we wanted out.
Yeah, we wanted to be able to go eat something across the street if we wanted to, right?
Yes.
Like, we just
or
wanted
stop
that.
subsidizing the weird sushi section.
Yeah, and no offense to sushi fans, sushi's great. I occasionally eat sushi myself, but I don't want to pay for your sushi obsession.
That's right.
I like to eat udon. That's all I'm saying. That's it. That's all. The show's over now. No, actually,
I think, you know what? Let's dig up a little bit more. Let's give some facts and insight.
On the supply run?
Yeah, I guess.
Supply run.
There's one person wearing green watching this right now saying, I was promised you're going to talk about Kimmel. What is all this stuff? Well, here we go. Jimmy Kimmel Live was taken off the air last week. You might have heard about that after Kimmel made jokes in his monologue about the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Now, a lot has been made of comments by FCC Chairman Brandon Carr on Benny Johnson's podcast later in the week. But even those comments are not the only reason. Two of the major owners of ABC affiliate stations, Nexstar and Sinclair, said, and by many reports said this before Carr's podcast comments were made public, that they were going to pull Kimmel unilaterally. So here are things to keep in mind. I ain't here to tell you what to think, but affiliate owners respond to local communities. They get calls from angry people who watch their station. They also respond to local advertisers in those communities who might be angry and calling themselves, but also get calls when someone sees that ad on the local station. Nexstar and Sinclair combined own 25% of ABC's potential audience, so they have leverage. Nexstar wants to acquire another ownership group called Tegna, but that would put the combined company over the limit of how many local stations an entity can own in the U.S. The FCC could change that limit or give a special exemption. So you're not wrong in thinking maybe there is a little bit of an FCC connection here. Sinclair would like the ownership cap changed as well, but also has been pushing the FCC to accelerate adoption of ATSC 3.0, which allows for monetization of over-the-air spectrum. And that's where I think most of our attention should be when you look at the economics of this. All the local affiliates get money from cable companies. These are called retransmission fees or retrans fees. And the parent networks take a cut of those retransmission fees. As cable revenue declines, affiliates want to change those fees to be more variable. So if the money were to go up, sure, network can have a little more of it, but let's lower it while the retrans fees are lower. Both Nexstar and Sinclair's affiliate deals with ABC are due to end in 2026, so they're definitely negotiating through all of this. In 2023, Disney CEO Bob Iger suggested that linear networks may not be core to Disney. He walked that back later, but there's been more and more talk of national networks, not just affiliate networks. So they have made the decision to put Kimmel back on the air tonight. We're recording this Tuesday, so we haven't heard or seen what he's going to say. Disney said, "We have spent the last days having thoughtful conversations with Jimmy, and after those conversations, we reached the decision to return the show on Tuesday. Nexstar and Sinclair are playing hardball in this negotiation. Nexstar has 28 affiliates and says, we stand by the decision pending assurance that all parties are committed to fostering an environment of respectful, constructive dialogue in the markets we serve." In other words, they're not going to show tonight's episode of Kimmel, but they're not saying they won't put it back on the air. They're going to watch, they're going to listen, they're going to see how their audience reacts. Sinclair, which has 38 ABC stations, said discussions with ABC are ongoing as we evaluate the show's potential return. Now, the guests tonight, Brian, are Glenn Powell, who has an Apple TV show coming out, and Sarah McLachlan, who bravely showed up at a red carpet performance and decided not to play a song.
That was her protest?
Yeah, she still showed up at the red carpet premiere, but she didn't play the song she was supposed to say.
Well,
play.
Okay, so let's first of all, everybody could get the wiggles out and be as offended or not offended, and you could be as seriously offended or as performatively offended in either direction, and ain't none of mine, never mind anywho. I'm more interested in how the larger systems of the crowds, and by the crowds, I mean both the consumer crowds and the subsection of the consumer crowd that is politically motivated. And I also mean the entertainment crowd and the subsection of entertainers who are politically motivated. Everybody's playing their own status game with their own in-group. And so while I agree, Tom, that if we want to live in a morally correct black and white society, it is highly disingenuous to play pretend, to refuse to perform. Like, that's not a boycott if you're going to the red carpet event. However, it is an effective way for one libertarian unit of performers to signal as part of the cloud of performers that ABC serves not just at the largesse of the consumer and the folks that the advertisers are trying to reach, but also the performers. They are a platform that performers will choose to go book on there. So I think in that regard, it's I don't know. Old Brian would have been a little bit more bent out of shape, all this. Modern Brian is a little more tuned into the Game of Thrones of performative stuff like that. Does that make sense?
Yes, except you said you agreed with me and I didn't say anything. I guess my tone maybe applied.
Yes, Tom. Yeah.
But honestly, that was more for the fact that he didn't book. There was a rumor going around he was going to book Governor Gavin Newsom, right? That would have been political fireworks. He booked Sarah McLachlan, which is technically political, but what she did is not play a song at a red carpet. That is different than having Governor Newsom on, right? So that is a safe way to have someone else address the politics of it without setting off as many fireworks, right? That's really where I was going with that.
Oh, but meanwhile, Glenn Powell, I think we all agree, is like, who likes Glenn Powell? He's great.
Yeah, right. You're not going to get a lot of divisiveness there, so that's a good book. This is pre-taped, so if Kimmel doesn't say exactly what they're comfortable with putting on the air, it's not going to get put out. He knows that, so he's likely, after all these conversations, to stay within the rules. It's what rules did Disney put? And are Sinclair and Nexstar going to be comfortable with those rules? I think Sinclair and Nexstar are using this as a way to get leverage in the negotiation over retrans fees. I think Disney is also using this as a way to get leverage in negotiation over retrans fees. My guess was going to be that Disney would give them a little something and they would agree to put it back on. I still think that's probably what's going to happen. But these companies are actually, in my opinion, waiting to see what their audience thinks after tonight's episode. They're going to see what the agreed upon message from Disney and Kimmel is. Then they're going to take the temperature of the audience to see how mad they still are. And then they'll decide to put them back on. If they don't put it back on tonight, in fact, I'll give it a couple of days. If they don't put it back on by Monday, Disney's not going to go without that advertising revenue for too much longer. And they have the ability to say, our local affiliates are preempting this, so we will offer it to another station in the market. Could be an independent station, could be an NBC, CBS, or Fox station. And they will find stations who are like, yes, of course, we would love to have Kimmel, because everyone will come to us to watch it who can't watch it on ABC, because there are some people who want to watch it. And there are precedents for that kind of thing happening in the past.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I did a little deep dive in. Do you have any, because in general, the present tense politics are going to shake out. Plus, I think the important part, Tom, is that you correctly sussed out a important reminder, which is whatever the political discourse is, whatever the offended, not offended, please remember that is the product being sold to the masses. Just like which team winning the Super Bowl, if you care, then you are part of the product being sold to the masses. That is the same case on this. I think it's way more interesting that that different players can take this opportunity to mess with money by performing performatively, whether it's politically motivated or not, messing with advertisers in order to get leverage for example, renegotiating retransmission fees. I think that's the real game to watch.
Yeah, that's the Game of Thrones here. But again, people are expressing their feelings about whether they think what Kimmel said was okay or not okay, or a lie or not a lie. And to me, that is important as a conversation, but that is not necessary to understand this situation, because you can look at other examples in the past. ABC itself in 1993 wanted to air the pilot of NYPD Blue, which now we think of as just like, oh, a classic crime drama. But it was so controversial before it had even aired that 57 affiliates, so close to the 66 that are refusing to air Kimmel, refused to air NYPD Blue, and ABC moved it to Indie and Fox stations, because at the time, Fox needed the eyeballs. And in the 1960s, Southern affiliates got CBS to fire Howard K. Smith because of his civil rights commentary, and they were a factor in the cancellation of the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour. So there's both non-political shows that have played out very similarly to what we're seeing with affiliate preemption, and then there have been examples in the past where networks flat out just fired someone or canceled a show because of a pressure from a limited number of affiliates.
Yep. So there's a number of those. And what's interesting is very rarely does it come from a giant uproar. It is a perceived threat of an uproar. It's a bunch of people being offended on other people's behalf. For example, in the case of Bill Maher losing Politically Incorrect because he said everyone calls the terrorists cowards. And essentially he was saying, I don't know, I'd be scared to fly a plane into a building. And then for that, he got kicked off, worked out okay for him. He got real time. Phil Donahue was anti-war at a time that the media was generally pro-invasion of Iraq, and he lost his show on MSNBC. Again, not because of a great groundswell. Clearly, there were some people who were anti-war at the time, but it was just the right enough of not a popular sentiment. Arsenio Hall had Louis Farrakhan on, which was it was kind of like not blacklisted, but he was gray listed. It was just more difficult for him to book folks. And because it was a syndicated show, there was no one and done drama. It's like a bunch of different affiliates could choose to not broadcast it or not. And then there's all of the non-political controversies. For example, Don Imus's show went away because he said, he called people nappy-headed hoes. Whoopi Goldberg claimed that race had nothing to do with the Holocaust. The Holocaust was not about race, which was complicated to say. Megyn Kelly, she went to bat for blackface and ended up, now she's got her own show elsewhere. And then you get into racially insensitive stuff like Roseanne Barr, Paula Deen. But in the case of FCC, so that's the question, is do we want to look at political comps that came before? Do we want to look at FCC comps that came before? For example, what we saw with Sinclair refusing to air Kimmel, that's a preempting strike that they're doing on the local level affiliate, which is exactly what happened when Ted Koppel on Nightline did an entire episode where all they did was read the names of everyone who died in Iraq. And it was a very solemn occasion, and a bunch of people got upset about it. Again, an FCC non-political thing. Do you know about Jack Parr's censored joke?
My parents would never stop talking about poor Jack Parr. They love Johnny Carson, don't get me wrong.
Right?
But they always talked about like Jack Parr, that poor guy. All he did was say water closet and they took him off the air.
That's right. Although what actually happened was they censored the joke without informing him. He took offense, walked off in the middle of a live performance, and waited until the network had to publicly signal, we apologize, we hope you'll come back or whatever. So he pouted long enough. Later, he would admit that it was a very childish thing for him to do. But when he came back, the episode came back, he says, as I was saying before I was interrupted, that which I believe, back to politics again, isn't that the way Trump began his speech in Butler, Pennsylvania, was as I was saying. So he stole a joke from Jack Parr. Then there's also the indecency crackdowns with the FCC. And the question, of course, is whether or not the FCC is the moral police of, think of your wardrobe malfunctions, that kind of thing. But what do you think, Tom? Which of these, or is there another one I haven't named, that is the best comp for the Kimmel situation?
I really do think it's the NYPD Blue one. That's the one that matches the best, especially now that he's gone back on the air. I think, yes, I don't love what the FCC chair said. And, I agree with Senator Ted Cruz and others when they said like, I don't think that's a great idea. I don't think we want to be getting into that business. I don't actually think that it had much to do with Disney's decision, except in so much as it fanned the flames that caused Sinclair and Nexstar to make their decisions. I don't think it was, we're worried about the FCC. I'm not so naive to think that Sinclair and Nexstar didn't think, hey, we could also score brownie points with the FCC. Why not? But I think that wasn't the reason they did it. That was a nice side benefit. The reason they did it was because of public outrage in the areas where they air these. And the same public outrage caused NYPD Blue to be pulled. It is the public saying, we don't like this. We're calling the affiliates. We're angry. The advertisers are worried. The advertisers may not be offended, but they're like, I don't know if I want my restaurant commercial showing up on Kimmel and have that get around and then people boycott my restaurant. What can you do about it? And I think that is the major reason why they pulled Kimmel. Disney decided to pull Kimmel because they saw that this was going to happen and they wanted it to be calm. Justin Robert Young has said that he's got it on good authority from various sources that they were worried about what Kimmel was going to say the next night, and they wanted Kimmel to calm down and have a chance to think it through and talk it out and calm down. This is very clearly a let's calm the situation down, then bring it back, then go into a very mundane affiliate fight over controversial content, no different than NYPD Blue.
Yeah. Yep. We got an email from Amar.
Yeah, Amar said, in the earlier days of cord cutting, I'm talking back when PlayStation Vue was launching. I loved PlayStation Vue. I remember that there were markets that didn't have certain broadcast channels like NBC, Fox, CBS, or ABC. They might have one or two, but not all, because local affiliates needed to make deals with the streamers. At the time, I was thinking that there should just be nationwide or even worldwide versions of these channels that just air regular programming, perhaps replacing local programming with game show reruns or content from news channels like NBC News Now. This issue doesn't seem to exist in most markets anymore, but the fight over Jimmy Kimmel's show and the subsequent Reddit posts I'm seeing of people asking how they can watch tonight's episode signals to me that there might be a practical need for a national feed like this. Do you guys think that this battle might inspire networks to consider launching national feeds to avoid this type of issue? That's exactly what Bob Iger was saying a couple of years ago and got in trouble with his affiliates for saying it, but I think you're speaking from the same hymnal there, Amar.
Yeah, I would say that almost certainly they have been thinking about it. If they were to suddenly bring it up as though the thought just occurred to him, that almost certainly would be them deciding that now's a good point to drop a little trial balloon in there, see what happens and whether or not there's a national interest in it. But as Tom pointed out, man, there are so many plates spinning. There are so many interconnected threads that tugging on one, the whole thing starts to shimmy about.
And there is a national feed in most cases. It's called Fox One or Disney Plus / Hulu or Peacock or Paramount Plus. You can watch Kimmel on Disney Plus / Hulu. You can do that. So ABC kind of already has that. It's just not an actual feed. And at this point, I'm not sure they need a feed when they've got streaming. They can make that be the alternative and say, hey, everybody in the market that isn't getting Kimmel, if you're not already signed up for Hulu, do it now. You can watch it tonight. And they'll probably get some signups because of that.
Well, right on, man. Well, I'll tell you one thing that will never, ever go away is, well, not this program, because at some point we'll be replaced by robots, and like a ship of Theseus / Flying Dutchman, we'll just keep going forever and ever and ever. But what will never go away is even when our robots, great grandchildren are still doing the show saying, I remember when we killed Cords, our love for our patrons. Folks who head on over to patreon.com/Cordkillers, who keep us loud, live, and independent. You know, hey, Tom, I don't know if you heard about this. Did you know that Patreon has an app that allows you to consume all of our show?
What?
Yeah,
an app, you say?
They have, it's not just an app. You can get your own RSS feed. You get a private feed just for you. As
I'm not just locked into the app. I can have my own feed in my own podcatcher of choice.
Yeah, that's right. And then you'll get early access to the full experience. You'll get exclusive access to our patron-only After Talk segment. It's a pretty sweet deal. And it won't, you know what it costs you?
That's it. I quit, Brian.
What?
I quit because I want to become a supporter of Cordkillers and get all that great stuff at patreon.com/Cordkillers for $1 an episode.
I'm not going to say that we're doing a Ponzi scheme on Patreon and that all creators are secretly just supporting other creators and that it's going to screw things up if you quit this, because that's going to disturb the whole ecosystem. But let me just say that I'm glad to be part of the web of fine creators over at patreon.com/Cordkillers.
That's right. You will officially be able to call yourself a creator if you support us at patreon.com/Cordkillers. Do it now. Right. Thanks, everybody. And now the search party. There is a trailer out for the movie Mandalorian and Grogu, set to premiere in theaters May 22nd of next year. Did you watch the trailer, Brian?
I did, Tom. I didn't get a lot out of it.
There's a lot of Grogu. Did you not get a lot of Grogu in it?
I mean,
so much Grogu. There's Grogu eating and Grogu laughing and Grogu riding a thing and playing with his friends. So much Grogu.
Okay, there is one. We've talked about this problem before, which is when you're making a trailer, you're speaking to one audience that is not necessarily the same audience that's going to see the product. The product can be very different than the trailer. Trailer has a certain job to do. And in this case, the job of the trailer is to remind people that there's an aspect to The Mandalorian that is a different flavor of Star Wars than what you're used to. And they leaned into it. And to be honest, look, I am a fan of the timeline where Solo continued to be helmed by Lord and Miller, and it was a wackety over-the-top comedy. That would have been great. It would have been a different flavor. Do I like this trailer? No, Tom. I hated this trailer. It was very bad. Do I believe in the movie? I believe in Jon Favreau. I believe that he has absolute, complete control. I believe in the star power of Pedro Pascal. I believe that there are surprises to be found of new types of Star Wars movies. Can it be great? Yes. Will it be good? I think so. Was this trailer anything? No, it was not.
Mandalorian and Grogu is being marketed as a pre-movie serial of the 1950s, which was one of the main inspirations for George Lucas to make Star Wars in the first place. So I think what they're trying to signal is our first movie in the theaters since Rise of Skywalker will be more true to the original Star Wars feeling than the one you last saw in the theaters.
Yeah,
I think that's what they're trying to do there.
Well, I certainly that's the case with the poster art. The poster art is
if you see the name in the trailer, right? Mandalorian and the Grogu. There's not a lot of dialogue in this trailer too, so I'm wondering if they're just like keeping a lot of stuff under wraps as well.
There's an awkwardly small amount of dialogue and a bunch like, "Hey, Sigourney Weaver, eh?" I'm like, "Yes," and they're like, "That's it for now." I'm like, "Okay, I guess that's what we get."
Fox has officially given a straight-to-series order, straight-to-series, no pilot, for a reboot of Baywatch to air during the 2026-2027 broadcast season. This is a good old-fashioned fall premiere primetime television reorder, and it's a show that existed on independent television network. It was only had one season on NBC before it went to Indies.
Can I, Tom, I went out to the National Speakers Association in Phoenix, and the hotel, for whatever reason, every time I was coming and going, it just happened to be when reruns of Baywatch were playing. Man, that was back before the internet. That was back when a little bit of cheesecake was something to see on TV. And there's a lot of it. It was, might as well call it Bodies on Display. Yep. Or look at that shapely figure.
They had a lot of nicknames.
Baywatch, yeah. Now, here's my question. That was an artifact of its time where it was as much as they could get away with. They didn't say the reason everyone watched it. Everyone had to pretend like we were impressed with David Hasselhoff's chest hair when secretly we were watching something else. Do you think we've seen in the movie a little bit of a wink, a little bit of a we're self-aware kind of thing? Do you think they play it earnest and direct? Do you think it's just gorgeous people and the same crime plot again and again? Or do you think they add meta? Because to be honest, I'm a little bit over meta these days when it comes to relaunching properties.
Oh no, this is going to be straight to chest hair. That's why they did a series order. They're going to cast the prettiest people they can, and just to be clear, plenty of people were watching David Hasselhoff's chest too.
That's true.
True. So that's what this is going to be about. If anything, this reboot will be like, hey, would you like a wider variety of chests to watch run down the beach? It's 2026. Here you go. The new Baywatch. That's my guess.
Yeah. Gambling Man in the chat says that the Baywatch wink and nod Hasselhoff peaked with the 2008 SpongeBob movie. I agree
too. Variety has learned that Disney Plus greenlit a one-off Muppet Show event special that will air in 2026 to coincide with the show's original 50th anniversary. So it'll be like a 50th anniversary special Muppet Show. Go to the Muppet Theater. They'll do a variety show just like they used to do. And Sabrina Carpenter will be the guest star. Do you know Sabrina Carpenter, Brian?
Oh, yes, indeed I do. As a matter of fact,
does she have you in tears? Are you a man-child?
I am almost certain. Boy, the amount.
Do you need an espresso before you answer?
Let me just say one hot take on this. One-off, boo. I thought the show was coming back, and instead it turns out to just
this is a backdoor pilot.
It better be.
Sabrina Carpenter is the perfect equivalent to the kind of guests they had.
Yeah, she's Dolly Parton-esque of our time.
Totally. Like super popular, massively acceptable, great TV presence because she used to be a TV star as a child. So yeah, I think that's a good call, and they're hoping it does well enough that they can say, we're bringing back the Muppet Show. And I kind of hope they do. The Pitt saw record postseason audience growth on HBO Max. Weekly viewership tripled, Brian, after they won their Emmys. Since the April 10th finale, The Pitt has an average audience spike of 80%, getting more than 18 million global viewers per episode on Warner Brothers Discovery.
So this is fun. We've tracked the societal trend over the last couple of decades of first, whether or not a streaming service could get the credibility of winning an Emmy or eventually an Oscar. But now we're seeing societal trends change in forms of, it was never a surprise if a movie won an Oscar for it to suddenly be popular. Part of that was because it could do another run in movie theaters. But even after that, we're accustomed to the idea of like, what? Lincoln is good. I'll check it out now because it got a whole bunch of awards. The idea that that's more possible with TV shows seems to be a wonderful lagging indicator of the utter domination and success of streaming services.
Well, and it's another calculation in creating shows where they may not stream well, but if you're pretty confident you can win an Emmy, hang in there, everybody. Maybe we even authorize a second season because we've got a good shot at getting the Emmy buzz. So yeah, I thought this was interesting too.
The Emmys, do they have the hoity-toity stink that the Oscars usually have? Because the Pitt, from what I've seen, I've not watched the show, it seemed a bit more popcorny than I expected. I know it's good, but I didn't expect it to be Emmy good.
I hear it's Emmy good. Okay. And it obviously is Emmy good.
According to the Emmys, good.
Right? No, but even before it won the Emmys, I heard people say like, "Oh, this is fantastic television." So I have not watched it yet either. I am sorry. I apologize. I am deficient in not watching it because I have so many people I know who have been telling me to watch it. But yeah, the Emmys is always a little less hoity-toity than the Oscars, I think, because it's television. I think it's on that scale where film historically has a much more artistic reputation than television. But I wonder if that changes too, as television gets more respect and books more, accomplished film actors in TV shows and all of that.
Well, and I guess what I was referring to with the spike is just, I think the cultural change is everybody's familiarity that TV shows are like books now, where it's like they all come out and we decide in our subcultures whether we all want to read them at the same time.
Yeah. And the Booker Prize is the Emmys in the book world, right? Yeah. Apple TV Plus has postponed the premiere of The Savant, starring Jessica Chastain. The series tells the story of an undercover investigator infiltrating hate groups to take them down. Apple says it will release the series at a future date. No one in the FCC that we know of asked Apple TV to do this, nor would it matter because Apple TV doesn't need the FCC in order to stream television shows, but it's a very similar decision, in my opinion.
Yes, actually, it took me a couple of laps to even piece together that this could be driven by the current cultural move, which, again, a lot of people checking with their manager. Everyone's checking with their boss. The broadcasters checking with the advertisers checking with the populace.
Apple doesn't even need advertisers.
That's right.
This, right?
But what they do need is an excellent reputation. They need to be beloved for their content.
Exactly. And that is enough for them to not cancel it. They're just delaying it.
Yep.
All right, let's move on to the buried treasure.
Most people want to know why they suddenly got rich.
Buried treasure.
Buried treasure is where we talk about something we've been watching lately that we think maybe you might want to add to your to-watch list. Brian, what you got?
Tom, I got one thing. I'm going to have to insist you watch it. You got to check out Death Note. It's so great. I'm watching it with Josie, and I keep telling you, a bunch of stuff happens, a bunch of throat clearing every episode within about 2 minutes. Like the actual plot progresses for about 2 minutes per episode, but then around the 120-second mark, they firmly state in one clear way where it's like, so this, ... And then there's always, but then that means, and then after that, it's the mental chess map. It is nothing but the game of trying to map who knows what's and if then, and then you get teased for 15, 20 minutes, and then finally something happens again. It's great. Death Note is great. It's old. It's from the aughts back in the day. It's on Netflix right now. Everyone should watch Death Note.
Death Note it is. All right, fine. I will make time. I will literally create time. I will invent a machine that creates time in order to watch Death Note. I, on the other hand, have something much less highbrow, if that even is highbrow. Futurama's back. Futurama has returned to Hulu. All the episodes are there. You can just watch them if you want. Binge away. They're short and sweet, and they are exactly what you want from Futurama. If you're the kind of person who shows up in a new town and says, "Where's the McDonald's?" you're going to love this season of Futurama, because you're not going to get something new or different or strange or unexpected. But if you like Futurama, you're going to get Futurama.
Are we up to Tom Baker yet in the reincarnations of Futurama?
This is still the most recent Futurama, right? Like, this has been around now for 3 years, I think, since it returned to Hulu. I think this is the 3rd season back on Hulu. And it had
got it. So it's still the same incarnation. It's just a new season of the same incarnation.
It's just a new season of the Hulu version, which succeeded the Netflix version, which succeeded the Comedy Central version and the sci-fi version.
And then before that, Fox.
Fox.
Eventually, you have to go back to Fox. I love the fact that you literally forgot
where it
started. It was born upon.
Yeah.
That is fantastic.
Back in the Eisenhower administration, when it premiered on the DuPont network. It would be the Dumont network, actually. But anyway, yes, Futurama is back. Go watch it. If you got something we should be on the lookout for, email us cordkillers@gmail.com. And then, when you're done with that, say, "Hey, I'm actually in my email. Maybe I should subscribe to Tom's Free Tom newsletter."
Now, why would I do that, Tom? Name 3 reasons why I should go to freetomnewsletter.com. You know what? I'm going to go to freetomnewsletter.com, but I may or may not enter my email address. Give me 3 reasons.
Okay. First reason, exclusive story of the week insight from me that I don't put anywhere else.
Oh, you hold stuff back, so you don't give your best to the other programs.
That's not what I'm saying. But there are things that occur to me late on Friday that I haven't been able to put anywhere else. And I'm like, people need to know what Microsoft and OpenAI are doing about their situation, or I didn't have time to really dig into it. So this is the exclusive thoughts about certain stories. Sometimes they're Cordkiller stories. Sometimes they're tech stories. There's reason number 1. Does that work for you? There's reason number 1.
Okay. All right. You know what? After air breaking news. Sometimes thoughts and important things don't happen with the news cycle. Yes.
Inside my brain kind of stuff.
In your brain. Yes.
Number 2, an excerpt from my book.
Oh, that's right. You have unfairly, and I'm glad you brought this up. All right, look, I've been beefing with Tom for years about this. For every book he writes and puts out, did you guys know that he's holding back at least one more book at all times? And apparently he keeps it locked away like a damsel in a tower and only lets it out at freetomnewsletter.com.
That's right. Now, you could even make Free Tom Newsletter, paid Tom Newsletter, and get the whole thing delivered right to you. But if you just want a little taste, if you're like, what's this book about? Every week, been given an excerpt of the book. So there's 2, free fiction, free thoughts.
So free true things, free false things. Checkmate, Tom. There's no other vectors. Things are either true things or they're fiction. That's it. You only got 2 out of 3.
Or there's a picture of my dog, 7.
Pictures of dogs. The superposition, the third gravitational body, bigger than the stories inside Tom heads. All right, that's it. I'm going to freetomnewsletter.com. That was a double plus good ad.
Thank you. Thank you very much for making it that way. freetomnewsletter.com. Let's scan the horizon.
Send a scanning crew aboard.
Scanning the horizon!
According to Antenna, the new ESPN service and Fox One combined signed up about 1 million new subscribers in 10 days. If you're one of the people going, how many people are going to pay for this sports stuff these days? Well, the answer is 1 million. That number does not include those signing in through their cable subscription, because you can authorize to watch ESPN through your cable subscription. These are people paying for either ESPN or Fox One. It does not include people coming over from an existing Disney Plus sub if they added ESPN as a bundle. These are brand new 1 million subscribers. The only thing Antenna didn't separate is how many were ESPN and how many were Fox One. I'm guessing it was mostly ESPN, but you'll be able to get both services bundled together for $40 starting October 2nd. ESPN is normally $30 and Fox One is $20, so that's a saving of $10 a month if you want both.
So I got a question for you, Tom. How much of this paid to play the sports. How much of the people pulling the trigger on this are doing it because they just love sports that much? And how much of this is driven by the simplicity of, you want all of it? We got all of it. It's simple. Yeah. Because keep in mind, and we'll open up the kimono a little bit. We've talked in After Talk about how on this very program, there's an incentive for us to, if you listen via the podcast, we have programmatic ads from Acast on there. And it's a strange decision to intentionally kind of graffiti your own art in order to make the paid simple version more attractive. How much do you think that's been at play with all of the this game there, that game there thing over the last few years that this is finally resolving? And how much of it is just sports fever where everyone can't get it?
It's mostly sports fever. Okay. This game there, that game there thing still exists. If you pay for ESPN, there are still games that aren't on ESPN. And that's always been the case. The reason you didn't feel it before is because they were on your cable service. And you'd only get mad if you're like, wait, this game is supposed to be on CBS. Why is it over here on FS1 this week or whatever, right? But you could still find it. Now you got to take an extra step of subscribing. But I think most of it is, I cut the cord a long time ago. I've been trying to figure out how to watch games by hook or by crook with various things. Gosh, it's nice to just have ESPN again. I know I don't get all the games, but now I get ESPN. And there are apparently a million of these people who are like, I'm not here for a sport. I'm here for sports. I just want to turn it on and watch it.
Yeah.
Google has announced it's introducing Gemini for Google TV, which will let TV owners get natural language conversations with their television. The idea is to say, I want that show about the dog who flies, and Gemini will be like, oh, you mean The Adventures of Spuds MacKenzie. Here you go. The Gemini rollout to Google TV will begin on a TCL TV called QM9K. And then later this year, Gemini arrives on the Google TV streamer itself in a software update. It'll go to Walmart's On 4K Pro, the Hisense U7, U8, and UX models, and the 2025 TCL models QM7K, QM8K, and X11K models.
So is this on device or is it piping it up to the cloud for interpretation?
It is piping it up to the cloud. There's a local client, obviously, taking your voice, but then the cloud is doing the answers.
But what that implies is it's going to be great. I mean, the more of we're finally... I think of it as, 20th century, we got the and or gates, and now we have the ish gates in technology where you could just wave your hand and say, the one has a mustache and they blow it up and then it's confirmed. And it's like, yep, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Also, it's all of Gemini. It's not limited to your TV questions. So if you want to ask it, like, why are there drones in Rwanda? Like, it can answer that too. Like, it's the full version of Gemini available to you.
Wow.
Disney is raising the price of Disney Plus, ESPN, and Hulu subscriptions just in time for you to be mad at them about Kimmel. Starting October 21st. Many of the streaming services' standalone plans and the bundles will see their prices increase anywhere from $2 to $3 per month.
It seems like it's getting pretty expensive, Tom. I don't know how I feel about all this.
I mean, if it's too expensive, don't subscribe. Right?
If it's too expensive, you're too young.
No, it's. I look at these things and I think people, all of us humans, when we see price increase, viscerally don't like it. We're like, no, I don't want to pay more for the thing I already get. However, the behavior has been when someone goes to cancel, they chicken out and realize it's only $2 more. And I watch it a lot.
We will see. I mean, I have copped to it, Tom. I am very aware that there's a availability heuristic bias, but every time I hear about another price increase or another crackdown on passwords, just all I see is just a flash of the Jolly Roger. And I'm like, man, I want to track and see if there's a response or not.
People get mad at the story, but don't take action.
That's exactly what I'm going to do. I know that I'll change none of my behavior, but I'm curious to see if other people are more price sensitive than I am.
I think that there definitely is. You listening right now who's like, no, I'm going to change my behavior. You exist, but there aren't that many of you. Most people And you might actually secretly be one of these people when it comes down to it. You may say you do things and then don't do it. Happens to me all the time. But most people won't notice the increase. They'll get the email. They'll forget about it. They won't read it. They'll delete it. They'll get the bill. It'll be on their credit card. It'll be $2 extra. It really won't stick out. And then they won't cancel it. What will happen is I've lost my job. I've taken a job at a reduced salary. I need to reduce expenses. I am going to go cut back on the subscriptions I have. And it won't matter what the prices are exactly. It will matter on which ones of these do I need? Which ones do I watch the most? And these companies know that. They can raise price by a couple of dollars and most people won't cancel. What will make them cancel is their own personal financial considerations. Hey, thank you, Dale Garner, for the
I was about to say, that was fun.
Sticker. Yeah, that was very good.
Dale Garner decided to support us right now live on the stream. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Electric Boogaloo.
So the I was holding back, and then Dale Gardner gave me money, and then I totally forgot my point.
We can now afford 3 more months of Disney Plus, Dale.
That's correct. To not cancel. My advice continues to be, and I still stand behind it, once a quarter, cancel everything.
Cancel them all. Yeah.
Once a quarter, cancel everything. And then the moment you want it, just take it. Just always take it. It's double fun. You get the smug satisfaction when you cancel everything. You get the joy of feeling like Richie Rich when you buy everything again. Cancel everything, buy everything. It's great.
I want to make a video. Unfortunately, I don't subscribe to cable, so I don't know how to do this, but I want to make a video of me canceling as many streaming services as possible while trying to cancel a cable subscription. So
basically,
how many streaming services can I manually go online and cancel while I'm waiting on hold?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to the chatter.
Got mail.
These are your emails to cordkillers@gmail.com. Mark wrote, I think ultimately we're going to need operating system level multi-view. We were talking about me enjoying multi-view on MLB, and I wish there was multi-view more places. Mark says, especially for college sports, since they are usually multiple simultaneous games on different streaming services, your experience with the MLB app is a step in the right direction. I imagine this would require more powerful hardware, since it would mean running multiple instances of full apps. Probably not that much more hardware, but you're right. Some of the older televisions would not be able to run too many apps at once. Modern televisions might do better with this sort of thing. But yes, operating system level multi-view it would be a great idea. You need TV makers and operating system makers to cooperate on that, or you be Roku. You just made the TV yourself. And that's your selling point is, this new Roku branded TV that we designed in partnership with TCL or whoever's making it, can do multi-view from all your apps. That would be a big selling advantage, I think.
Yep.
We got an email from Ryan in Minneapolis, for the ultimate episode of, Yellowstone, thank you. Just having caught it again after listening to the first episode. That's Tim McGraw in the role of James Dutton. That's in the full experience that we're going to talk about later.
I'm really glad to know that, because that was distracting, because he looks so much almost like the other guy.
Which makes sense because they're related. He also plays that role really freaking well in 1883, which is a Yellowstone spinoff. I'm not a fan of the Western, really, given the story arcs of this series, but I really did like the series. If you do watch the shows in their entirety, and maybe Amos's wife can counter this idea, I would probably watch seasons 1 to 3 of Yellowstone, then watch 1883, which is really just one season, then season 4 of Yellowstone, then 1923, which is also really, really good and explains the train thing, and then wrap the series up. I only ever caught these on Paramount Plus and Peacock, and that's really the release order IIRC, but it plays really well in my memory.
Interesting. Boy, there was a brief moment I just thought, of course, we started watching Bonanza, and that led us to, well, what about the modern day equivalent of Bonanza? Then, not going to lie, when you just mentioned the possible off-ramp of 1883, I'm like, wouldn't that be interesting to go another level
Another round?
in Inception?
This is the machete order of Yellowstone, I guess. 1 to 3,
exactly.
1883, 4, 1923, rest. Very good. Thank you, Ryan. We got an email from Ralph in Jersey. I was listening to episode 567 and wanted to share something I noticed. First, I'm not trying to suggest ways to get around password sharing restrictions, just an interesting observation. I might have been using my brother-in-law's login. They finally cracked down and locked me out, so it's time for me to get my own account. What I found curious is that it blocked me on my Chromecast with Google TV, but it still worked on my MacBook through the web, iPhone, and iPad. The only thing I could think of is that they're specifically targeting set-top boxes. What are your thoughts on that?
That would make a lot of sense because I would estimate that the vast majority of password free writing are from vacationing families who log in and then they leave the hotel or the Airbnb and the next family comes in. I know that of all the vacations I've taken in the last 2 years, every place we've stayed, the previous family had been left logged in. So if you are going to start with the easy pickings of dumping people off, you're not going to get a big backlash on set-top boxes, I think.
Yeah, I think too, there's probably the idea that if we want to reduce the false positives for people traveling, right? Oh, he's definitely out of the house, but maybe he's just on a business trip. Don't enforce it on browsers and phones. Because when you're traveling, you're less likely to take your Roku or your entire television with you. You're probably going to use your laptop or your phone. So if you want to reduce false positives, that's an easy way to do it. Also, they may have done some financial calculations and been like, the people most likely to actually pay for a subscription when we catch them sharing a password are the people who watch on televisions. People watching on laptops are watching on laptops because in a lot of cases, they can't afford a television. So they're probably not going to pay extra to get a login. So it might be more financially lucrative to go after the television-based stuff too. All makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Jason said, very excited to listen to the Yellowstone full experience. I have opinions on where the plot went. Anyway, I have a suggestion for the next full experience. Have you ever done an animated show? We have. We did the Gargoyles. May I suggest the Flintstones? I think it would be interesting to see how that show evolved over its 167 episode run, or maybe BoJack Horseman. This one would be a unique experiment because you'd basically be bookending the series. The ultimate episode is the second to last episode, and the lowest episode is season 1, episode 2. Keep being loud, live, and independent, and keep killing chords, Jason.
Is Gargoyles the only show that we did that was animated? That's amazing.
I think so? Question mark.
Yeah. Well, that makes me feel like we should definitely do an animated show next. I don't know that it would be the Flintstones. In fact,
the Flintstones is an interesting one, though.
Although what I kind of want to do, if we were to do the Flintstones, I'd kind of want to start with the Honeymooners and then see.
I was thinking you took the words right out of my mouth. I was like, but I kind of want to also do the Honeymooners so we can compare it to the Flintstones. Yeah. Sean writes, I've been subscribed to the Hulu Disney Plus HBO bundle. I was able to cancel my account, but had trouble restarting just HBO. I needed a service rep to unlink my HBO account from the Hulu Disney Plus account, but it was mostly a painless process. Watch whatever I want, whenever I want, on whatever device I want, and not pay for the services for whatever reasons I might have. I get that the corporations want there to be as much entangling of services as possible to keep customers inside the tent, paying for services, but they run the risk of customers culling their services, and maybe instead of forgetting to cancel subscriptions, customers will forget to sign up in the first place.
Interesting.
I think what he's saying is the bundle can be a two-edged sword, because if you, like him, want to keep HBO, you have to go to extra effort. And some people may be like, I'll just cancel all three. And then they don't sign up for HBO.
Yep. That tracks.
Well, that also is the end of this episode. Our website is cordkillers.com. Our email address is cordkillers@gmail.com. And we are live at twitch.tv/nightattack and youtube.com/modernrogue Tuesdays at 5:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 p.m. Pacific. I reckon we'll talk to you next time.
Awesome.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.